Hey everybody, just a quick Ruger 1022 update. I'm about to start the trigger work here, and so far I have the receiver separated from the top half of the gun. And to do that, there's just two pins you have to drive out. You obviously want to use a punch. There's a pin there and a pin there. There's nothing special you have to do, just drive them out slow using a rubber mallet, and they come right out. So as I'm doing this, I will probably stop and start a few times on the camera, and we'll compare some parts. And just to go over what I'm replacing real quick, I have, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, a Volquartsen Custom Target Hammer, and supposedly this is polished with a sapphire stone, and we'll just have to see how smooth it is once we get it in there, but that's exciting. We have a new tactical barrel band that we'll be putting on, and we'll also have a bipod attached to that eventually. We have a new aluminum trigger with a set screw. We have a titanium magazine release that we'll be putting in there. Now I know what you're saying, you can modify the one from Ruger, but I went ahead and just bought it anyway. This is the auto bolt release. And then we also have a hex takedown screw that we'll be replacing, and that one's probably the easiest. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here, and we'll see how we do. My plan of attack here is to remove this pin, which brings that bolt release out. Then you remove this pin, which takes the magazine release out. You want to make sure your hammer's forward. You're going to pop that pin out ever so gently, and then the hammer's going to pull out. And then you push this pin out, and then the trigger comes out. So I'm going to move the camera aside and get to work, and we'll hook up here in a bit. Alright, so we're back, and everything came apart as expected. Everything fell out of the gun, nothing popped out, didn't lose anything, so that's good news. Just to give you a quick comparison here, let me zoom in. Obviously we're going to start in the reverse order, so since I took the trigger out last, that's what we're going to start with. And here's a quick compare. The one on the left is the one from Ruger. The one on the right is the custom trigger I have, with the set screw in the back that you can already see. And here's the one difference I'm already noticing. Besides the material that it's made out of, whoop, and I'm sorry for the moving around here, whoop. The one on the right is slightly longer, and it looks like has a better ergonomic curve to it for the finger. So I'm going to get started on putting this back together, and we'll check in again on the next piece and we'll do a quick compare. I should just also note for you guys one thing real quick. The kit that I bought for the trigger uses what's called a slave pin. It's a little pin, you can use a finishing nail. It helps get the sear in there before you put the trigger in the gun. Instead of having to hold it together, put it in, slide a pin through. You just slide the pin through and it pushes the slave pin out. So anyway, I hope you use one of those. It's definitely easier, and I'm going to get rolling again. Alright guys, so you'll notice I have the new trigger in place. Now I stopped here just to show you something. Part of the hammer assembly I got, or the new hammer kit, it came with a spring that goes on inside of the hole that matches up with this detent here, or trigger plunger I guess, and it really softens the pull-up, so I figured I'd just show you that real quick. I mean, there's barely any travel there, and it's super smooth. So next up is putting the hammer back in place, and just to do a quick comparison of those, here's the old hammer and here is the new hammer. So you can definitely tell the difference. And this one is definitely much lighter, and you can see it's really polished up. So I'm going to go ahead and get that in, and we'll be back. Alright guys, so I'm working on the hammer here, and they don't really give a good picture of it in the instructions, but there's two shims that come with this if you need them, and they're 4/1000ths of an inch thick. So let me just show you real quick. The new hammer has bushings that go in there, and then the shims are meant to go in between the hammer and the bushing, and you can see there's a little gap on each side there, so I figured I'd show you that. And then I also got a new hammer spring with this. And the new hammer spring goes on this little plunger here, and it's real easy to take off. You just compress the old one, slide this off, put the new one on, compress it, and slide that back on. It's that easy. So I'm going to get that in there now, and I'll see you back. Hey guys, so we've run into a small issue, and let me show you what's going on. And the issue seems to be with the new trigger. So as you can see right now, the hammer is cocked back, and this is the old hammer. I was doing some troubleshooting with some different parts to narrow down what it was. So look what happens. You can see in this little hole right there that we've got engagement between the sear and the hammer, and if you pull the trigger, everything releases just fine. But watch this. If you engage the hammer and you pull it back until it clicks a second time, whoop, hang on one second. Look at that. Nothing. So let me take it apart and show you what the difference is between the triggers. So here's what we're going to do in the meantime to get the project done. I have taken the old trigger and I drilled a hole right in the center of it, right where the other trigger had the set screw, and took the set screw from the aluminum trigger and put it in that one. So like I said, let me take it apart and I'm going to show you the difference. Alright guys, so here's the two triggers, and if you line them up perfectly, the one on the right is the factory trigger. See the difference? This one doesn't have a scoop down like this one does, so something's not hitting in there quite right. So let me get it put back together with the old trigger, and then now let's see what happens. Alright guys, so here is at least the hammer reinstalled, and you'll notice that this is the new hammer with the fine polish on it, and then with the old trigger and then the set screw I've installed in there, and all I did was mark it, drill a hole, and thread it in a few times, and then I took a knife and carved around the inside just to get some of that leftover plastic off. So you can see that works in there just fine. So now look what happens. Old trigger in place, hammer, pull it, boom, got it. So if we reset and I pull it back like I was before, you'll notice in that little hole right there, you can see good engagement between the hammer and sear. And then watch this, pull the trigger, boom. So definitely the trigger, that's going back. So I'm going to keep working and get this put together. The rest of it's not too bad now that I have this problem figured out. So I will see you in a bit. Alright, so here it is, everything's all put back together. Just for reference, I did go ahead and use some blue Loctite on that set screw right there for the trigger. And like I said before, if you cock it back now, I got it set just perfectly, and let's see here, to where it just lets go and engages that. It's not too tight to where you don't get positive engagement, you just want it perfect so you don't have any over travel, just like that. So everything else is in there, the extended mag release is in, also the auto bolt release is in there, and everything's working good. So I'm going to go ahead and get the gun reassembled, and we'll just take a quick peek. Alright, we're back guys. Here's the gun all finished up and put back together. Everything functions good. One thing that I should have shown you before I put everything back together, but in my frenzy to get the trigger working, I accidentally forgot. This is the bolt release that came with it. The difference between this bolt release and the auto bolt release is this notch isn't there. Previously this was an up and down and back and forth operated. The new one, what it allows you to do is pull the bolt back, engage it up, and then to release it you can just pull the bolt back and it goes forward again. So that's how that's going to function. I ended up getting the new takedown screw in. What that lets me do versus the old one is this is a hex head. You're going to scratch a slotted screw and it's just going to look terrible. You know, it was $4. I figured what the heck. Here's the new barrel band on it. New barrel band looks good. Like I said, I have a bipod coming for that. Probably going to get to the scope in the next few days. I'll shoot a video of me doing that. After the scope, we get the bipod on, we put the strap on. I'll take a final video of it, and that'll be our project. So there's the gun. Let me just show you how crisp the trigger is real quick. Make sure it's cocked. Give it a pull. And that's how it is. And that's with the stock trigger, unfortunately, because like I said before, I couldn't get that aluminum trigger working, and I ended up putting the set screw in that one. So anyway, thanks for watching, and have a good day.